What happens when gigabit switches are connected over an old CAT5 cable? If 2 gigabit switches are connected using an old CAT5, not CAT5e, cable, will they slow their connection down to 100 Mbps?
There are 3 types of CAT5 cables. The only one that will reliably connect at 1 Gbps is the CAT5e 350 MHz, any others would transfer at a slower rate. However, if you do get a CAT5 100 MHz to transfer at 1 Gbps over a short, physically short cable, a connection, then you still run the risk of packet loss. CAT5 vs CAT5e. Network support. CAT5 cable will support 10 base T and 100 base T network standards, that is, it supports networks running at 10 megabits per second or 100 megabits per second. CAT5e is an enhanced version of CAT5 that adds specifications for crosstalk, see below. CAT5e cable is completely backwards compatible with CAT5, and can be used in any application in which you would normally use CAT5 cable. However, the added specifications of CAT5e enable it to support gigabit Ethernet, 1000 base T, or networks running at 1000 megabits per second. Crosstalk. Crosstalk is the bleeding of signals between one cable into another, due to a process called induction. This effect can result in slow network transfer speeds, and can even completely block the transfer of signals over the cable. CAT5e cable has been improved over CAT5 cable in this respect, and crosstalk has been greatly reduced. Bandwidth. The bandwidth of a given conveyance media is essentially its information carrying capacity. The greater the bandwidth of a system, the faster it is able to push data across a network. CAT5 is rated at 100 MHz while CAT5e is rated at 350 MHz. This, coupled with other more stringent specifications, makes CAT5e ideally suited for networks which plan to operate at gigabit Ethernet speeds. Bottom line, if you plan on to implement gigabit Ethernet, go with CAT5e. Also, the small increase in price of CAT5e over CAT5 is more than made up for by future-proofing your network's cabling infrastructure. Other note, if you're planning to run networking cable next to power lines and expect to get reliable 1 Gbps speeds, you will want CAT6. CAT6 and CAT5e are basically the same, except that CAT6 is certified to for gigabit speeds. It has better insulation of the twisted pairs and will handle running next near power lines better.
The switches have no idea what cable is used between them. The only difference between CAT5 and CAT5e is that CAT5e has stricter standards for interference between wires. There's no real difference between the actual cables, and all CAT5e cables also comply with the CAT5 spec. Gigabit Ethernet just requires CAT5, not CAT5e. The connection may be better with 5e, but it works fine with 5.
To answer the original question without getting too pedantic, the active devices/endpoints/gigabit switches for the commenters below who got confused, will negotiate and connect at the speed they determine will pass over the wire, CAT5 cable connecting them together. You have 3 outcomes. Quality CAT5 was used for the interconnect, the run was short enough and care was taken in termination, same goes for patch cables. The devices link up at 1 Gbps and nobody knows the difference. You also get lucky and both devices are 1000 base T and were designed for CAT5 anyway. The CAT5 cabling and termination is marginally capable of handling 1 Gbps. The devices negotiate and link up at 1 Gbps. Annoyance prevails as packet retries and misery come from a connection that mostly functions. In worse situations, the negotiation occurs, but the link fails and you find you have to manually lock the connections to 100 megabits per second till you take care of the issues. The CAT5 installation is so marginal that the devices negotiate and connect at 100 megabits per second with tasty slowness, but are able to pass traffic reliably at the fallback speed. Needless to say, scenario 2 is one you don't want.
Our company recently moved to new offices with a pretty old, from 1996, IBM/Freenet CAT5 installation, which I was pretty concerned about. However, I had the entire installation tested with a Fluke Network certification tester, and I am happy to report that the entire installation passed as CAT5e. 2 cables just barely passed, but passed nonetheless. It is my understanding that CAT5 passing as CAT5e is quite common, and fears about CAT5 performance often are without merit. While I have yet to run extensive performance testing of the networks, besides the certification, we have had zero problems with using the installation for 1000-bit connections.
If you want to support the channel, please consider liking and subscribing.